Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on the video. It means a lot if you guys keep clicking. If you guys keep clicking, I'll keep making. And today we have a great video. Today we're gonna break down this insane tribal that had happened, you know, last night. I mean, it's just like this tribal is the definition of crazy. This tribal has everything you want. Personally, I think it's the best tribal to ever come out of a premiere of any season of any survivor in any country. I think it's so good, and so today I'm going to break it down in very long detail. And I just want I just want to cherish this amazing premiere vote, because a lot of times the vote in the premiere is very kind of boring and lackluster and just like, oh, it's the person who doesn't fit in. And this was very much not that. I'm going to break down all the stuff, all the advantages, all of the stuff with Jairus, with Chantel, with Jeannie, with Brad, and with who else? With Sarah and with Ricard. Definitely a lot of stuff. I think this is definitely the best tribe out of all of the tribes at this point, entertainment wise and also game wise. And so I think overall it's time to get right into it. But before we start, 72% of you guys who are watching these videos aren't subscribed. Let's change that. It's easy and it's free. If that's it, let's get right into the video. All right. So first, I just want to talk about really quickly the Yase tribe. They're like a whole tribal. Since I'm not going to be making a full video on really anything to do with Yase or Luvu, and because Yase went to tribal, I'll just quickly touch on them. It seemed to me like I'm fine with Abraham going. I feel like Abraham just he didn't bring much to the table as far as gameplay. He was definitely like a loud character, which is fun, but that's not really what I'm looking. I'm looking for strong players, which are Evie, Liana, which are Xander and David, and really it's just Tiffany who's kind of the weak player on this tribe. And I honestly hope that there's a crazy vote next time and that the women don't just band together and get out David or Xander. But I honestly I think if one of them were to go home, it probably would be David. But I just don't know what's going to happen if that tribe loses again. And so overall, there's just a little quick spiel on the yellow tribe. Now to go to the green tribe. So the Sarah boot is fine by me. I think Sarah's not that interesting of a character. I think she was more interesting than I thought she'd be, but she's not like a must-have character like a Jairus is right now, or like who else? Like a Danny is on Luvu. Like you want those people to say for the sake of the show. Sarah's not a person that like as a make or break for me right now, entertainment wise for the season. And so overall, I'm cool with her being the person that took this kind of snipe. And I'm overall, it definitely doesn't ruin the season for me. And so I just want to touch on just this whole UA strategy type of thing, like throughout the entire episode. So let's start. So we don't get a lot of UA strategy until they lose the challenge. And speaking of the challenge, at the challenge, we have Sarah and Chantel kind of blowing the puzzle, and they end up not getting the bag for the puzzle. And so this kind of starts out the whole idea of who's going to go home, because in Brad's head he's like, oh well, they messed up the challenge, let's vote them out. He has a very simple way of looking at it. And honestly, and up to this point there isn't much talk of strategy on the UA camp, except for Chantel and JD. And what happens is Chantel goes around and makes balances with everybody. By the way, amazing job, Chantel, in this episode. Spoilers for my power rankings on Saturday, but she is high up there. But yeah, so and then JD does the same thing earlier on, but it's more pointed out as being kind of fake, and like everyone like sees through it. Whereas in Chantel does the same thing. She goes to everyone. She's like, hi, like this and that, and she's forming a bunch of bonds with everybody, but she doesn't get caught up, and she doesn't sound as fake as JD does, where he sounds like he's just trying to game them all. Whereas in Chantel seems like she's actually trying to make genuine relationships, even though she's just doing the exact same thing as JD is, in my personal opinion. And I just think overall that she's more smooth with it than JD is. And then next we have, so when they lose the challenge, right, we have Ricard, Chantel, and Sarah as the big trio of the tribe, and it seems like they're going to control the vote. Right now, they attempt to bring Brad in, and Brad comes up to them and says, and mind you, Brad is talking to Ricard, Sarah, and Chantel, and he says, I think we should vote out either Sarah or Chantel. To Sarah and Chantel, which is, by the way, like hilarious. I actually don't think this is like a dumb like this is Brad being stupid and like inept. I actually think this is Brad just like not giving a shit at all, which I actually kind of respect. Obviously, not the best game move to tell the person who's going to who you want to go home that they're going home, but still, in the end, it ended up not getting him blurred out, and so that's fine. And so they attempt to kind of bring Brad in, but it seems like he's being iffy, and then they're right because Brad goes right to Jairus and tells Jairus that they're all gunning for Jairus, which is true. And so we have Jairus and Brad now kind of paired up, not because they're not necessarily close socially, but because Brad wants to save Jairus in order to get Sarah out. And so in the end, it kind of works out for Jairus. And then Jeannie also kind of latches on to Brad's side of things because the three doesn't bring Jeannie in. And so right now we're looking at two loosely built up trios. One's much more strong than the other going into tribal, at least from what we see in Sarah, Chantel, and Ricard. But the other one also exists. It's just not really as strong socially. Like the bonds aren't there as much as the Ricard, Sarah, and Chantel trio is. So at this point, Chantel and Jairus are shown having like one last combo, and this really like confirms for us that Chantel and Jairus, no matter which trio they're in, they are very very close. They have a close relationship in the game, and that they are not necessarily each other's number ones, but also not necessarily. Like I feel like they're probably each other's number ones, especially after the vote. I think they definitely are. I think that the only competition for that spot would be if Chantel was closer with Ricard, which I don't think is the case personally. And I got to give Chantel credit. She is the only person in this whole sequence who I thought she has no chance of going home. And I was right because she played this perfectly. She got in the spot where even when she and he was like, I don't know, and I was like, no, I was right about Abraham. It's going to be Jairus 100%. And so I just don't know. At this point, if it's going to be Jairus, but I'm 99% sure going into tribal that it's going to be Jairus. Because at this point, I see the three being strong. Jeannie is I had a feeling that Jeannie was just gonna kind of throw her vote away because she was clueless, and that leaves Brad and Brad and Jairus to vote together, probably against Sarah, and so that's a 3-2-1 vote, which is very very easy, and then they get out Jairus in the process. That's the scenario that's going on inside my head right now, going into tribal. So when we go into tribal, we get this whole kumbaya narrative in the tribe, which quickly disappears as soon as the real strategy kicks in. And the three that I was talking about, like the power, like quote unquote power three, really starts to become apparent to Jairus. Right, he's like, oh my god, it's obviously gonna be Sarah, Ricard, and Chantel. They're all over there. They're all whispering, and they're all not talking to me. So he gets super paranoid, and he's like, well, if we're gonna whisper, let's do it. So he gets up. I believe he goes to Chantel, his number one ally, and he's like, what's going on? And she's like, trust me. And I think at this point, Chantel wanted to save Jairus, but she just didn't know what she could do. But now that everyone was whispering, she was finally able to have a combo with him and talk about, okay, let's go for Sarah, who ends up getting voted out in this spot. And so they have a combo. And then what I think is so interesting is that Sarah comes up to Jairus and Chantel. She's like, "Did you guys need can I talk, or do you guys need your space?" And they're like, "No, go." And what are you doing? It's a live tribal, and you're gonna ask someone if you can listen in on their conversation. Screw that, be assertive and aggressive. But yeah, she ends up being kind of passive in that moment, and it might come back to haunt her. And in fact, it does come back to bite her for sure in this little scenario at tribal. And so overall, Jairus ends up going all in, and I think in the end it saved him, because I think Chantel wanted to save Jairus, but she just didn't know how, because the power three had all the power at that point. But when Jairus was able to get in a combo with Chantel, where they could just say a name, it then switched to Sarah, because I remember when they were whispering, the subtitles had said, okay, are we switching to Brad now, or are we so that's why I thought originally it was Jairus going in tribal. When they were doing like when the power three was like doing their little whispers, then it turned to Brad, and then when Jairus got up, it turned to Sarah, because Chantel then flipped with Jairus and Brad, and then pulled Ricard with her, and then that was 4 votes. Then Jeannie threw her vote away, and then Sarah obviously voted for whoever. I think it ended up being Brad in the end. And so overall, it's a very, very like hectic tribal, but it was overall very entertaining. So, but moving back to when they, are like when Jeff's like, all right, let's vote, right? Are we ready? And they're like, yes, Jeff, let's go vote. So Jairus gets the extra vote. Obviously, Jairus is really bad at playing off the fact that he didn't sacrifice his vote to end up taking a chance at the advantage. But in the end, he ends up getting it at tribal. And at this point, in my head, I still think it's Jairus because all the stuff that I just explained to you, I obviously didn't see it after 5 seconds of watching the tribal. So I'm like, oh my god, it's gonna be Jairus. And so when he gets the advantage, I'm like, oh my god, yes. So he can play it, and then him, Genie, Brad, and his extra vote all vote for like Ricard or someone or Sarah, and then it's 4-3. I was like, oh my god, perfect. And then he didn't use it, and I was like, what? And so he really did put his trust in Chantel, because if Chantel didn't flip with him and bring Ricard, he gets voted out probably in a three, probably 3-1-1 vote, I think, or like a 4-1-1 vote, which is like, oh my god, like that'd be a terrible way for him to go out. And so it's very interesting to see what ended up happening and how Jairus had confidence in his relationship with Chantel, which is a credit to him for following his gut, and also a credit to Chantel for making that bond to where he didn't waste his advantage that now maybe Chantel and JD can use together. And so overall, I think it's a credit to Chantel's social bonds and to JD's strategical sense for the game. And so at this point, the votes come in, right? We have one for Ricard, which comes from Genie, who's lost. I don't know what Genie's doing. In my notes, I literally have WTF is she doing? She is, I don't know what island Genie's on, like no pun intended, literally what universe she is in. Like, I don't know what galaxy, I don't know what other planet, other plane of dimension she in 4D. I don't know. Genie is all over the place. Tell me in the comments if y'all can decipher what Genie may have been thinking in her head as to what she thought maybe was going on. Because I sure have no excuse except for the fact that was just a really, really silly thing to do by Genie. And so then we also get one vote for Brad, that comes from Sarah, and so from Sarah's perspective, right? So I can't get in Sarah's head, unlike Genie, but I can pick Sarah's brain. So Sarah was probably thinking that her, Chantel, and Ricard were voting, and Ricard were voting for Brad, and then that also Jairus. Now that so she probably thinks that Chantel told Jairus to vote for Brad because when Jairus had got up, Jairus was like, "Is it Brad or Sarah?" And so she probably heard Brad, and she's like, "Okay." So Jairus is now going to vote with us to get Brad out, and so she thinks that the Sean 3 plus Jairus are voting for Brad, and that it doesn't matter who Brad or Genie vote for. And so that's probably her thought process, but she's the only person who ends up voting for Brad, and she kind of looks stupid. And then we have 4 for Sarah, and I've already explained this thoroughly, so I won't go over it again. But in the end, we end up getting Ricard, Chantel, Jairus, and Brad all voting correctly on this first one. Brad because he just wanted Sarah out, and Jairus because he was able to talk to Chantel, who was able to flip Ricard over with her. And I'm interested to see, like, I'm interested, like, after the season to hear why Ricard flipped with Chantel when Sarah was kind of Ricard's number one. Like, I feel like Ricard and Chantel and Sarah could have ran that tribe and just pagonged everybody, but instead we end up with kind of a weird boot, which it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me in the end of the day. But that's how it went. It was a crazy boot. I think I haven't seen anything like this for a first boot, or a boot in the first episode of a season. So one more thing that I want to touch on before I end up cutting this video out is the whispering. I think the whispering in Winter's at War was deplorable and ended up becoming very old very, very quickly. It kind of lost its specialness. I think it really came to a final halt at I believe it was the Tyson one, and then also at the Kim one as well, where it was happening every tribal. I think Denise's reaction to it was perfect, where I think at a tribal maybe final 10 or 9, it got to a point where Denise is like, "Oh my god, I'm not whispering, let's vote." Like, she got sincerely mad, I believe, at Jeremy or something, because she got frustrated because she was so exhausted from having to whisper every single tribal, and she just wanted to vote. And so I think this season did a real good refresh, because they obviously production knows that there's going to be whispering every single season now, and so they did a good job managing it and editing in a way where they showed everything except for who Chantel told Jairus, that they were going to vote for, which was probably Sarah. And so they showed everything basically except that, or at least everything important except that. Obviously, it can always be edited better. I wish I had known like where Ricard's thought process was. I feel like that's the biggest editing hole in this tribe. Is I wish I knew where Ricard was coming from, because all I got from Ricard was Jairus bad, Jairus bad. So why did Ricard then flip with Jairus and Chantel to vote out his number one ally? It didn't make much sense to me. But overall, the editing I think was overall fine. It was really actually honestly good. Like I think the editing did a really good job of showing us exactly what I needed to see, for the most part, and but also kind of blindsiding me, but not just like confusing me, like the Tyson vote in Winners at War, where like that really wasn't whispering, that but like just the editing, and that for that tribal was so confusing with all the idols and the misplay idol, but like I didn't even know what like her thought process was, and her being Kim, and then like the alliance getting it was very very weird. And I think this is the opposite. I think this was very straightforward, but also chaotic in a way that was exciting and also surprising, but not just like what the frick did I just watch on my TV screen. And hopefully like these good travels continue. Like I genuinely hope that there's no like easy votes going on this pre-merge, because a season like a Day vs Goliath is prided on the fact that there are only like one obvious boot the entire season. The rest of the boots are super fun to watch, right? Because you have the Jessica Pete boot, right? You have the Jeremy blindside, where everyone thought it was going to be Natalie, and then you have then you get like the Natalia boot, and then you get the Jackie Gate, and then you get, what is it? Is it Lyrsa at that point? Like, so you get all these votes that are really unpredictable, and obviously the merge vote, and then the Dan vote, and all that stuff like that. And so if this season can follow that same formula of Day vs Goliath, I think it can end up going down as a top 10 season. Not trying to jinx the season, so I'll knock on wood. But until it proves me wrong, it's top 10 until it has a terrible episode or string of terrible episodes. But hopefully that won't happen. And so, yeah, that's it, guys. Tomorrow, my video will be on the overall prisoner's dilemma twist, if you will. Really, just the risk your vote or keep your vote twist, and how that affected the game. And I'm going to break down from start to finish who played the best. It's Xander. And then who played the worst? It's JD. But it's okay. No, go ahead. But yeah, so I think overall it's a really fun topic. I'm actually gonna go record it right now, and that'll be out tomorrow, probably around 7 or 8. And so be ready for that. Again, content will continue, and then we'll of course have our predictions in Power Rankings podcast dropping on Saturday afternoon, probably with a special guest. Maybe if not, then it'll just be me, and maybe a buddy or two. But yeah, so we'll just have to see what we're doing. But stay tuned for tomorrow's video and this Saturday predictions and Power Rankings podcast. And then next Monday and Tuesday, we'll have videos previewing the episode 2. And yeah, overall, guys, thank you so much for continuous support on this channel. Continue to like the video right now. Please go down and just press the like button for me, please, and thank you. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here, and if you are new here, welcome to the family. Hit the notification bell; it's the most important thing. And if that's it, I will hit you guys up later.